Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Amma ba'du fa'a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I wanted to first and foremost apologize to everybody that this episode is coming out this late. It was supposed to be done by another Imam Sahib who, for some reason, was not able to produce this video for you. So I am jumping in his place and creating this content for your consumption. That being said, in this video, I am going to be talking to you about argument number 2 from the book that we're currently studying. Argument number 2 is from the page 80 all the way up to the page 115, written by Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Sani radiyallahu anhu. In these pages, Hazrat Muslim Maud radiyallahu anhu has made us think about some of the very signs that have to do with the appearance of the Messiah and the Mahdi in our times. Those signs, when taken collectively, make us think that this has to be the time frame in which the Messiah and the Mahdi was supposed to come. So, what I'm going to do today is to help you understand how those signs have actually been fulfilled in this time frame. In the very beginning of this chapter, Hazrat Muslim Maud radiyallahu anhu mentioned that in the Islamic literature, the appearance of the Messiah and the Mahdi have been mentioned simultaneously, side by side. The era of Mahdi and the Masih Ma'ud alayhi salam will mark the dawn, a new dawn in the Islamic advancement. Another point that Hazur mentioned is that this time frame is also mentioned as if when the Messiah will come, it will be likened to the coming of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam. And then, of course, the point number 4, which was mentioned by Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Sani, was that the Messiah will render Islam a great service at the time of an unparalleled danger. This reminds me of the hadith wherein the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned that there is no greater fitna than the fitna of Dajjal, and all the prophets from the time of Adam alayhi salam up until now have been warning their nations, their people, against this fitna of Dajjal. So that being said, prophecies regarding the second coming or the appearance of a messenger are always shrouded in a cloud of mystery. Otherwise, if they were taken literally, then there will be no distinction between a believer and a non-believer. For example, if the exact name of the person, the exact location, the exact year of his birth, the name of his parents, the name of his wife and children, if every single detail in the minutest form was physically present in our literature, then it would be almost impossible for anybody to basically reject such a messenger or such a person from God. But that's not the divine intent anyways. Whenever a prophet of God comes, the prophecies related to that prophet are always shrouded in a slight cloud of mystery, so that those who can believe by using their intellect, they would have a much greater reward than those who, not understanding those prophecies out of their bias, so on and so forth, reject him. One more point to keep in mind when we talk about the concept of Messiah and Mahdi is that people over many centuries have fabricated many reports and narrations and ahadiths to basically fit their political agendas, their ulterior motives. During the previous dynasties, this was something which has happened. In order to legitimize their military conquests, for example, during the Abbasi conquests or the Abbasi dynasty, then the other dynasties of the Muslim empires, they have concocted different narrations in order to better suit their military conquests. In order to, for example, one kind of narrations that exist are talking about Mahdi coming from Khurasan and taking over the land over there, so on and so forth. Now, these narrations were concocted by Muslims of that time, the ruler elite, so as to legitimize their own rule. However, that does not mean that every single hadith regarding the appearance of Mahdi and promised Messiah are somehow false. The Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam himself has taken great care in narrating the true signs pertaining to the emergence and appearance of the Promised One. These signs are like beads in a thread or a continuous chain that has to be taken collectively and not individually. These are the signs that cannot be concocted by the hands of mere human beings. Under this chapter, Hazrat Khalifat Masih Sani radiallahu anhu has presented 41 distinctive signs pertaining to this time frame that the scholars and various commentators have been mentioning are related to the coming of the Messiah and the Mahdi. If you were to take these signs individually, then some of these signs can be fulfilled in different time frames. But if you were to take all these signs collectively and then see it with a single image, then you will come to realize that all of these signs were destined to be fulfilled in one specific time frame. And that is the time frame which is regarded as the time of the promised Messiah and Imam Mahdi alayhi salatu wasalam. Moving forward, Hazrat Khalifat Masih Sani radiallahu ta'ala anhu mentioned that the general state of religion in that time, according to the ahadith and books of history, the Islamic history, was going to be the fact that the Christians are going to be in the majority in the world. Then the second point which was mentioned was actually mentioned as regarding the general state of Muslims in that time frame. In this, it was mentioned that many Muslims would become the followers of Dajjal. In other words, many Muslims would be influenced by the Western nations and by their Western culture, so on and so forth. Also the Western religion, which is often regarded as Christianity. Another point which was mentioned, point number 3, was that at that time there will be a general lack of belief among the Muslims when it comes to the concept of qadar, which is the divine law or the law of determination by divine design. The sign number 4 which Hazur mentioned is the indifference, the lack of attention or focus by the Muslims towards paying of the zakat. Another sign, which is sign number 5, is the disappearance of salat. No need to further elaborate this point. Point number 6, worshippers, those who would worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, would worship Allah or would observe their salat in such haste with unbecoming speed. Another point is the disappearance of the Holy Quran, which is basically in its essence and the spirit, meaning people would read the Quran, would memorize the Quran, would write the Quran beautifully, but the essence of it, the teachings of it, the practice of it would not be found. Another point was regarding the exaggeration in the outward decoration of the masajid. The outward beautification of the mosques is apparent in this day and age. But the mosques themselves, they're replete. There are no true worshippers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which are filling these mosques. Point number 9 was that Arabs, the very people towards whom Islam came, would deviate from true Islam. Regarding the state of morals in that time, it is mentioned that sexual immorality would be at its rise. Alcoholic drinks in public would be at rise. Excessive gambling, disappearance of men of conscience, disappearance of honest dealings. Regarding the previous point, when somebody is being attacked, what are people doing? Instead of helping that individual, they're taking their cell phone out, making videos. This is the level of degradation of morality in the society that nowadays we are part of, that we're living in. Next point was that in regards to parents, the regard for parents will decline and the regard for friends will increase. Another point which is related to the religious knowledge and the standard of the ulama, it was mentioned that the knowledge itself would disappear and ignorance will take its place. Only those people would want to get the religious education who, for better or worse, are unable to get any other secular education. And they would be then encouraged that since you can't make it into the world, might well go and become a mullah. And then those people would then end up giving fatwa, such religious edicts that would be contrary to the true teachings of Islam. Another point which was mentioned is the change in the method of salutation taught to Muslims. Nowadays, instead of saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah when we meet one another, this salutation has been replaced by saying yo or other slang words. Look how clearly these prophecies have been fulfilled. Another sign which was mentioned was that the public esteem would be enjoyed by the rich and those who are in political power, instead of those who possess knowledge or who follow the religion altogether. Another point was that believers will be degraded and will be kept in the background for the want of social status. Another point was the decline in the usage of Arabic language among Muslims. Another point was that women would dress but would seem as if they're naked. That even though they would be dressed, but they would appear as if they're not wearing anything. Women would dress their hair in a peculiar way so as to show as if they have a hump on their head. Entry of women into the business life or the business field, the corporate America, as we say. Increased freedom of women, the use of masculine dress by women, men looking more like women. Point number 7 was related to the emergence of various plagues and diseases in the world. Another point was related to the ratio of population. The ratio of population. For example, one man who would suffice for up to 50 women. This is something which literally was fulfilled at the time of the First and the Second World War, especially in Europe, where majority of the men were wiped out as a result of that war. Another point is related to the transportation, communication, and international contact. For example, the old methods of transportation would disappear and be replaced by swifter vehicles. Regarding the economic conditions of this time frame, the time frame of the Messiah and Mahdi, it was mentioned that gold and silver would appear in abundance. Increase in transactions of interest would take place. Christians will constitute as the richest of the nations. Regarding political conditions, some of the signs are that Muslims will become like Jews, which means that they will have loss of political power and the political prestige in the world. Syria, Iraq, and Egypt were to rebel against their Muslim kings, and Arabs would be divided. Emergence of Gog and Magog in the world. The Gog and Magog are literally the eastern and the western powers of the world. The eastern bloc is with the Russia, and then the western bloc is with the USA and UK. Similarly, the rise of labor class, the expansion and elaboration of ruling hierarchy, the abrogation of the Islamic penalties, the earthquakes, tsunamis, and floods would appear. And last but not least, the lunar and the solar eclipses in the holy month of Ramadan. All these signs were to be fulfilled in one specific time frame. And that time frame was to mark the advent of the Messiah and the Mahdi. All of these signs, without any exception, have been fulfilled. Hence, the Messiah and the Mahdi must have come. In this world, only one such man claimed to be that Messiah and Mahdi when all these signs were fulfilled. And that Messiah and Mahdi was none other than the founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. Wa akhiru dawana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.